nervous because I'm here now.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. And in this episode, we're going to discuss the possibility of the Ravens adding right tackle Isaiah Wilson from the Tennessee Titans, who's having some troubles there. But before we get into it, if you guys want to take a second, give us a subscribe, give us a like, and stay up to date on all of the Baltimore Ravens news. But Jimmy, why don't you give us a little background info? What's going on right now with Isaiah Wilson in Tennessee?
Yeah, so from day one of the things I think that's interesting is that when people openly, like the GM and coaches and stuff, there have been reports that he is nothing like the person that they recruited. So that's one concern, in that they didn't see any real red flags, but he's gotten a DUI, he's gotten suspended. So last year was his first year. Of course, he was a first-round pick. So since then, he's had a DUI, he's gotten suspended, and he was on the COVID list twice. So he only had 3 or 4, depends on what website you're using, offensive snaps in all of last year. So a lot going on there with him, a lot of talent, a lot of potential, but definitely some red flags. Now, the reason we're doing this video is because the Titans are seeking trade partners. They've made that clear. They've given up. At the beginning of the offseason, they said he's going to have to do a lot to work his way back. And now that it seems that they've given up, they've turned the page, so they're looking to offload. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But that's kind of, contextually speaking, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, and this is a guy who, as you mentioned, was a first-round pick last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a massive guy. Let me just give you a couple of his measurables. He is 6'7" and listed right around 350 pounds. So he's definitely got the size that you would want as a right tackle. He has, 35.5-inch arms. So he's got the arm length you're looking for. He's extremely powerful. He can move bodies, whether they want to be moved or not. There's no doubt about that. The only cons I'm seeing, I'm pulling up, since we didn't see much of him last year, I'm pulling up basically all his draft profiles from multiple sources, and just giving you what they said about him. They said, there's a lot of pros. They're talking about how he's massive, he's long, he's 350 pounds, but he doesn't have bad weight on his frame. That's 350 pounds of good weight, which is encouraging to hear. They're saying his punches are devastating when he lands.
I love
them.
that.
It's pretty much over. Once his hands are on you, the rep is over. So, and with 35.5-inch arms, that shouldn't be a problem, him getting his paws on you. The only cons I saw coming out was that he's a little inconsistent with his hands. He has to develop better timing when he does strike with that big punch to not miss or get it deflected. And his awareness in pass pro is a little inconsistent, particularly when passing off rushes. So he can get a little confused when there's stunts and stuff like that. But that's not abnormal when you're talking about a guy coming out of college who doesn't have a lot of experience in the pros. But what I find interesting that on this draft profile, red flags, 0 red flags. So he was supposed to be pretty clean and come in and help right away for a very tackle needy team. They just lost Jack Conklin to a monster deal over in Cleveland. They certainly needed a replacement there. And this guy seemed to be a great fit, a guy who is a mauler in the run game and big and long to get around in the pass game if you're running the play action. So physically, he seems like a home run. He seems actually sounds very similar to Orlando Brown when he came out and some of his pros and cons when he came out. So, and that's why I think that a lot of people are linking the Ravens to the Titans, because now, as we mentioned, the Titans were already tight end or tackle needy when they drafted Isaiah Wilson. Well, they're still pretty tackle needy in that offense. So maybe that the Ravens can pull an OBJ traded to them for an Isaiah Wilson and some picks packaged, and maybe that they get, with a fresh new scenery, Isaiah can get his career back on track and get some good playing time.
Yeah, absolutely. You could see that, or, if there's a scenario where wherever Orlando Brown Jr. goes, whether, that deal in of itself is done or with another team, as soon as that happens, the Ravens have to have one eye on the present and one in the future. So they've got to have some feelers out there as far as what their options are outside of the draft to fill that need.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be interesting. I agree with you that, I just want to hearken all you Ravens fans. If you start, slamming the idea of us bringing him on and, that he's a bust and this, that, and the other. Number one, when he was drafted, he was barely 20. He was a redshirt sophomore. So what that means, I'm sure all of you know this, but just in case you don't know, when you get a college scholarship for athletics, you get 5 years of paid college. So
Mm-hmm.
one of those years can be a red shirt. A lot of guys redshirt their first year. That's why you hear the phrase true freshman, means he's legitimately a freshman. So a lot of guys that are just freshmen have already been in the system for a year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a redshirt sophomore, 3rd year in the program, but only 2 years on the field. So that's the soonest you can be eligible to get into the NFL. So he
Yep.
was the youngest that he could be to get in the NFL. So definitely some immaturity, going on there with the DUI and stuff like that. But he's 22 years old at this point. And so, once again, I want to harken you guys back to taking a flyer on Orlando Brown Jr. A lot of people thought that he was going to be a first-round pick, and then he came rumbling and stumbling down the 40-yard line, causing an earthquake, right? And he dropped to the 3rd. But who knew that he was going to be worth a first-round pick? Our front office,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was important that us as Ravens fans trust in the pick, and we got a ton of value out of the pick. One of our most value-laden picks in years, I think it's fair to say. So I think a situation like this, if we, if they don't cut him and they want to, because I think they can get a trade for him based on the fact that even if it's a late round pick, I would give up a 6th all day for this kid, for the opportunity, just for the possibility of him filling in that role.
Mm-hmm.
With, like you said, all of the things that you can't teach. He is huge. I love exactly what you said in the description. It easily uproots and turns opponents to widen lanes in the run game. Sounds like Orlando. Once his hands are fit, the rep is over. Sounds like Orlando, right? Just like you said, he's a mauler in the run game. And then the other thing I want to say too, that I'm not blaming it on this dichotomy either, but look, I think it's fair to say, while I don't know the guy personally, I think Vrabel is the type, he's got a rigid personality. You like him or you hate him. And he doesn't care either way, and that's fine. He's a successful coach. Maybe Isaiah and him just didn't, they didn't jive. And I don't know, not saying that was the reason for him acting a fool, but maybe that didn't help.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it would be a steal for the Ravens. I think this kid is going to turn out and be something in the NFL as long as his head can stay on straight. But I do want to make one thing clear, though. I'm only comparing him and Orlando. Not that Orlando had personality issues, but either way, they were both considered flyers, right? Because of, his physical issues with Orlando. And then obviously he has these off-field issues going on. But I would love the deal, Glenn. I would be super excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can add first-round talent, that's a good thing. Now, I guess I would wonder how much the recent revitalization of the rivalry may stand in the way from the Ravens getting to make that phone call and getting a deal done, because some pretty bad blood going on between the two franchises. Now, I don't know how much of that is just on the field or how much of that carries over into the front offices or anything, but I mean, he seems to fit what we would need. He's first-round talent. I mean, when you look at, and I'm reading in front of me, an impressive blend of size, mobility, and power. So he's not just a big, strong guy. He's a guy that can move his feet at that size. So, yeah, I think he would be a nice add. It's just a question of, because I don't think there's any chance that they cut him. I think if you look at his contract, he doesn't carry, like, it's not, he was a first-round pick, but he wasn't like a top 5 pick. So his cap number is 2.6 this year, then 3.1, then 3.6 in his final year in 2023. And that's if they decide to not do that 5th-year option. Now, that 5th-year option is going to be a pricey typically, but that, they can cross that bridge when they get there. And I'm sure if he turns out to be the tackle that at least the Titans were expecting when they draft him, he'd probably be worth that 5th-year option, and the Ravens will be happy to sign him to that last year. So, yeah, I'd be excited just to see but honestly, as far as chances, and I'm gonna kick it to you as far as your chances of this happening. But I think that the issues between the two teams and the fact that this is likely a team that they're gonna both be facing off each other in the playoffs for at least the next couple of years to come. I think that he would like to get rid of him on a team that maybe in the NFC, or at least a team that's less likely to compete right away against them directly. So I don't really like the likelihood, but I would love the fit, but I don't see it happening. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you on that sentiment. I don't know how likely it is, but fit wise, I love it. Now, this is the only thing I will say is the one thing we don't know is how you touched on it. Not sure if they'll get rid of him, but how detrimental do they consider him at this point where they're considering just
Yeah.
cutting him.
Yeah.
Right. So that will be interesting. And then if that does happen, how much will the Earl Thomas effect play on the Ravens reaching out to a guy like that? So there's a lot of moving parts here.
Because the dead money, I mean, if you want to mention, do you have that in front of you? Because there is
Earl's
dead money.
Oh, no, I have the potential. So if we signed him off the street though, the
that would be different. Yeah.
But yeah, if we did, I see what you're saying though. So like if we traded for him and that deal got done, while like you said, his cap hit isn't crazy, we would have to at least hold on to him for a year, because if we let him go this year, if we signed him and then decided, you know what, he's not worth it, and cut him, we would incur $5.3 million in dead cap money. So that's a lot of money. I mean, that's half of Earl's money, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he was 10.
Yeah, so that's a concern. And then even the following year, it'd still be 2.7. And so I say all that to say that I agree with you. I don't think the likelihood is high, but I would love this. I would love this pickup. I would love it for the Ravens. I think that this kid just needs to change the scenery, just needs someone that believes in him, a franchise that can just buoy him up a little bit, make him feel good, get out there. And look, I'm sure there's nothing that makes an offensive lineman happier than just smashing people in the face. Right? Just go out there, do your thing, and just run block. Don't worry about messing up. Just like Wink says, if you're going to make a mistake, make it at 100 miles an hour.
That's it. Yep. And then what better place if you do have struggles in pass blocking, than to go to a place that has Lamar Jackson, where the pass rusher in front of you can't just pin his ears back and try and run by you, because he's got to stay in his gap and he's got to, maintain that control to not let Lamar to just break free. So I think it would make sense for the Ravens and for Isaiah. Don't know if it would make sense for the Tennessee Titans, and I'm not sure how willing they are to do business with us, but it's a wait and see. And I guess we'll just see what happens. But let us know what you guys think. Do you like Isaiah Wilson? Do you see the fit? This guy seemingly would be willing to play right tackle long-term, which our current does not want to do. So let us know what you guys think. Is it possible? Do you think it ultimately will get done? And we'll look forward to it. Talk to you soon.
See ya.